IoT Unplugged. Tune in to the Internet of Things. In an industry where connectivity is paramount, 5G technology emerges as a pivotal player, set to significantly impact the landscape of always-on technologies. Beyond its notable speed and bandwidth enhancements, 5G promises a transformative approach to how devices stay connected, offering low latency and robust capacity for continuous, reliable connectivity. This leap in technology is not just about elevating current digital experiences, but also about enabling a new realm of possibilities where always-on becomes the standard across various sectors. As we delve into the capabilities and potential of 5G, we'll begin to uncover how it will shape a more connected and efficient future. To discuss this, I'm joined by Chris Gehlen, CEO of Neutroon. Chris, thanks for joining us today. If you could just start by introducing yourself and what Neutroon does.
Thanks for having us, Christian. So Neutroon is a platform to centralize the management of multiple private 5G networks to simplify the deployment and the operations for communication service providers and also to enterprises, and at the same time to enable faster monetization and payback for thanks to the deployment of advanced digitalization use cases inside these networks. Yes, and about myself, I'm the CEO. We started the company roughly 3 years ago. We're based in Barcelona and starting to scale up the company from Spain with a few networks in other countries in Europe, and also starting in the US in 2024.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. Well, let's get started with our first question. And that is, why do you believe 5G technology is poised to power the always-on technologies in 2024? And what can you tell us about how it sets itself apart from the previous generations?
Yeah. In terms of features or specific features of 5G, it's well known that, it provides higher broadband throughput compared to previous generations. And at the same time, it has the ability to connect more devices in a specific radio while providing, ultra low latency to applications that require this, right? So this is the famous triangle. But this is just one part of the story. I think the most interesting aspect of 5G, which is not so obvious, is that for the first time in history we have a fully programmable cellular network, right? You can really with a set of APIs change the quality of service to a specific device, and then if you add AI capabilities on top, the potential is massive for really driving connectivity to the next level. And in terms of what will happen in 2024, I think we're entering just more mature stage of the technology. One of the well-known issues was availability of devices and also the price point. And I think, both challenges have been overcome in the last couple of years. And you see, a lot of excitement around private 5G networks, really helping driving in industrial IoT initiatives, also LEO satellites and, satellite 5G. It's going to be big this year. And there are a few announcements from Amazon and other companies entering the stage. And, last but not least, as I said before, right, in terms of APIs, I think, 5G slicing we'll start seeing the real potential this year. So this is, the telcos basically giving you on-demand quality of service to specific applications like gaming or others, or metaverse applications. So really a lot going on, right? And I think 2024 is just a year where we will see more acceleration happening.
Okay, well, as 5G is accelerating, I was wondering what are the kind of implementations that we're going to see, and what's it going to look like across the different sectors, and how can businesses try to integrate this?
Yeah, I think if a business has not started their 5G journey, I think it's the moment to start. You see innovators or early adopters in the space moving from proof of concept to really rolling out massively, 5G capabilities, either with upgrading their devices or by deploying more private 5G networks. So a good example is, for example, John Deere, which is really betting on 5G as a differentiator, right? So the impact can be at different levels. So I think the first one has to do with operational savings. Obviously, having a future-proof wireless network can really accelerate the pace of implementing innovative technologies for energy savings, for automation, and we see paybacks between six and 12 months for investments in the space, which is quite interesting. I think other reason why companies need to look at this is ubiquity. So with global coverage provided by satellite 5G or non-terrestrial networks, so any company that has to deal with supply chain issues, should consider investing in how 5G can help to track all the assets that are moving globally, and this can have a huge impact on the bottom line. And last point here is specifically for hardware manufacturers. There's an interesting concept here called the evaporation of electronics that I heard from someone a few months ago, which means that with 5G capable devices, you can really move, electronics from the device itself to near edge computing systems, which, would help to reduce the unit economics of the device, right? So instead of processing power on the device, you transfer data at a higher rate to, a server that is located near the device, right? And this will be very relevant as we move to more, AI onboard processing requirements. So I think, those are just a few bullet points on why I think companies need to start adopting 5G this year.
Okay, you mentioned how this 5G is going to benefit, especially as AI becomes more integrated. I was wondering, where can we expect to see the most significant usage of 5G, especially with these sort of always-on technologies in the coming year?
Sure. Yeah. So generally speaking, logistics is going to be a big adopter of 5G. And this is because of what I said before. So there is, on the one hand, the need for better supply chain tracking, and for this requirement, I think satellites and LEO are going to be a huge benefit for logistics companies. And on the other hand, for warehouses and ports or airports where more automation is needed to really drive operational efficiency further, a private 5G network that can enable further automation, it's going to be very relevant, and you see many ports betting on that technology. I think that's the second vertical where we are seeing probably slower uptake, but with a tremendous potential. It's manufacturing. It's definitely the largest. If you look at like market reports, it's the one that offers the higher market size, but it's probably the one that is taking longer to adopt because of, say, legacy systems and just critical environments that are more difficult to transform. But in here, the potential is again, it's massive. Or AGVs, robotics. And now with 5G IoT, also you have the chance in these environments to really consolidate different wireless technologies into a single one, and then avoid having silos for different devices. I think that's very, very powerful. So I think those two at the moment, and energy and utilities. I mean, it's been happening for a while. So wind farms are betting a lot on private LTE, for example, for a while. They have, since these are large areas that they need to cover, it's the perfect fit for them. And once they start deploying autonomous drones, and you want to equip your employees with more futuristic devices like extended reality headsets and so on, then there's a clear need for private LTE, private 5G for this type of verticals.
Okay, you mentioned networks, but let's say, what would be the cons of adopting 5G, especially as you mentioned in industrial setting where people could have like a private Wi-Fi network or something like that?
So there are three main cons in my opinion today. Okay, so the first one is upfront cost. This could be seen as a temporary con, because if the payback is there, which is actually the case, then it's an investment worth doing. But this is still a barrier today, because obviously it's more expensive than Wi-Fi, right? I think that the second one is availability of devices. We have made a huge improvement here, but still it's not near close to Wi-Fi, and this is something that the industry is very aware of. And you see many industry associations and vendor associations really taking care of this topic, because it's very relevant for the industry. And cost of these devices are going down, and they will continue going down with new technology improvements and with economies of scale, basically. So it's just a matter of time. And then the third one, it's probably the skill set of IT staff that needs to deal with this new technology. Luckily, the solutions out there are becoming more user friendly. So you need to bear in mind that this is a technology that initially was meant to serve the large operators, the carriers, who have teams in place with the right skill set to deal with cellular. And this is kind of being simplified for IT users. And and this is, for example, one of the things that we are really focusing at Neutroon, and other providers, other vendors are going there as well.
Okay, all right. Maybe now looking even more forward into the future. There's a lot of buzz about 6G, and what if a company's maybe wanting to implement a new network, but they're worried that they're going to implement and then they may have to re-implement, and it'll be a heavy cost. Could you tell us what your view is on that? Are we still a long way from it, and should businesses deal with 5G in the meantime?
My view is that we are, a very long way, from 6G, and then, each cellular evolution takes roughly, between 10 and 15 years to be, commercially available. So, it's, before 2030, we won't see any real deployment of 6G yet. So, it's being designed, let's say, right? And we are at the very early stages of the R&D cycle, and where all the large players get together and define what 6G is going to look like. So in terms of the investment required to upgrade 6G or 5G to 6G, one of the good things of that 5G took care of is to really prepare or set the foundations of a cellular standard that it's almost it's a very high percentage based on software, which means that you can expect for 6G to be even more software based, right? And upgrading software, it's much more economic and less cumbersome than obviously upgrading hardware. So I think my message here is that 5G is the foundation of all, let's say, of all future evolution of towards 6G. And since it's going to be more software based, I think there's no need to wait. in my opinion.
Okay, interesting. And you talked about the evolution into 6G. I was wondering, what about the evolution of 5G technology? You mentioned sort of like network slicing, or I was wondering, what else can people look out for, and sort of what long-term impacts might this have for businesses and the technological landscape?
Yeah, so as I said before, automation will be and robotics will enabled by 5G. It's going to be a requirement. We're basically hitting a ceiling in terms of connectivity capacity with existing technologies. So if companies and organizations that want to move their intelligent device strategy forward, they will really need to bet into 5G to get there. So this is going to reshape any type of industry. Then any global organization that has moving elements around the world can be highly benefit or will be highly benefited by 5G. So supply chains will be much more predictable and resilient to what we have today. Obviously, you can prepare for a war or economic wars, right? But at least it will make things more predictable, right? And then you supply chains will be able to react faster as well. And then I think any industry that has to do with more on the B2C side, but anything that has to do with gaming and the metaverse and broadcasting as well, like television, those industries and events will be heavily impacted as well. So there will be more high capacity and low latency devices connected at the same time, and then to give consumers a new experience, and then this will radically change these industries, and we're just starting to see that. And slicing here, for example, is a good or interesting feature that was not there with 4G, right? And it's related to this programmable nature and the how apified a network becomes, right? And then if you add AI on top, the opportunities are limitless, right? So this, I think, we are starting to see what it's possible, and it's a large transformation because there are many stakeholders in the chain, right? And it's a long chain. So you start also with the chipsets, right? And you see, for example, this year, a few months ago, right, the latest Qualcomm chipset released for extended reality headset. And then once we start to seeing prices dropping and more availability of these devices, then this will drive again further investments in 5G networks. So it's a long process, but it's accelerating, or at least that's our vision at Neutroon.
Okay, and I was wondering, how do you think the facilitation of the networks interacting with each other will happen as 5G expands?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I think it's definitely something very interesting about 5G, but at the same time it's a large challenge, because imagine a future where you have the networks from the operators, then you have private networks that have been deployed by an enterprise, and then you have satellites providing coverage in areas that the telcos cannot reach. So you will have devices moving around and having to become part of this network of networks. This is an interesting concept, and it's something that we are facilitating with Neutroon. Okay, so we have basically built a powerful API layer that allow us to tap into the APIs of the operators, tap into the APIs of the different private 5G vendors, and then make sure that those you can handle the transition of these devices between networks. And I think this is something that it's adding value to our customers, and I think scalability of this complex system of systems, something very challenging, and something that we're looking forward to tackle from Neutroon.
Excellent. Well, I think that's a good place to end it. Chris, thanks for taking the time to speak to us today.
Thanks to you, Christian. Very interesting conversation. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Remember to subscribe to IoT Unplugged wherever you get your podcasts. And don't forget to share with anyone you think would find it as interesting or as informative as you have. IoT Unplugged. Tune in to the Internet of Things.